Three friends. A weekend in the woods. A whistle in the dark. We thought it was the wind, until it called our names. Now it's following us home. Don't listen too closely, you might hear it too. It was supposed to be a perfect weekend getaway. Just me, my two best friends Jake and Sarah, and the untamed beauty of the wilderness. We had been planning this trip for months, eager to escape the suffocating routine of city life. We found a secluded camping spot deep in the forest, miles from the nearest trailhead. No cell service, no other campers, just us, and the raw, untouched beauty of nature. It was peaceful. Too peaceful. The first day was spent setting up camp, gathering firewood, and exploring the nearby creek. Everything felt perfect. The first night was uneventful. We roasted marshmallows, told silly ghost stories, and laughed until our sides hurt. The trees towered around us, their branches stretching out like skeletal fingers against the starlit sky. The silence of the woods felt comforting, like a warm blanket wrapping us in nature's embrace. But the second night was different. It started with a sound. Around midnight, as we sat by the dying embers of our campfire, I heard a faint, high-pitched whistle. It came from somewhere deep in the forest, carried on the wind. It was soft at first, barely noticeable, but the moment it reached my ears, an icy chill ran down my spine. "Did you hear that?" I asked, looking at Jake and Sarah. "Hear what?" Jake replied, poking at the fire with a stick. "That whistle," I said, my voice uncertain. Sarah shivered. "Probably just the wind." But something about it didn't sit right with me. It wasn't random, like the wind. It was deliberate, intentional, almost human. We decided to call it a night, brushing off my unease as paranoia. I zipped myself into my tent, the darkness pressing in around me. Sleep came in fragments, broken by the rustling of leaves and the occasional creak of branches. At some point, I woke up. The air inside the tent was frigid, my breath visible in the faint moonlight. That's when I heard it again, the whistle. Only this time it was closer. I froze, straining my ears. The whistle repeated, low and melodic, almost like a lullaby. Then as I lay there, heart pounding, I heard something else. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, crunching footsteps. They circled our campsite, pausing intermittently, as if whoever or whatever it was listening. My mind raced. A bear? A hiker lost in the woods? I held my breath, terrified that even the slightest sound would give away my presence. "Jake!" I hissed as quietly as I could manage, but there was no response. Summoning every ounce of courage, I unzipped my tent just enough to peek outside. The campfire had burned out completely, leaving the site bathed in darkness. My eyes adjusted slowly, and that's when I saw it. A figure stood on the edge of the clearing. It was tall, unnaturally thin, with limbs that seemed too long for its body. Its head tilted slightly, as if studying the tents. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body refused to move. The figure stepped closer, and I saw its face, or rather, the lack of one. Where its face should have been was smooth, pale skin, like a blank canvas. I ducked back into the tent, my heart hammering so loudly I was sure it could hear me. The footsteps stopped right outside my tent. "Why are you here?" a voice whispered, impossibly close. It wasn't a question, it was a demand. I couldn't respond, couldn't breathe. The zipper of my tent began to slide down, impossibly slow. I clenched my eyes shut, bracing for whatever was about to happen. And then, nothing. When I opened my eyes, it was dawn. The sunlight streamed through the trees, banishing the shadows of the night. I crawled out of my tent, trembling. Jake and Sarah were already up, their faces pale. "Did you—" I began, but Jake cut me off. "We're leaving. Now." We didn't talk about it as we packed up, the silence heavier than the gear on our backs. As we made our way back to civilization, I glanced over my shoulder one last time. The forest stood still, silent and indifferent. But as we reached the edge of the tree line, I swear I heard it again, the whistle, faint and mocking, carried on the wind. But this time, it was closer.